Miyari, hola, hello. Miyari abatoma, hola a todos, hello everyone. Dak irile rahikote Niaku'no Ruiz León. Dak pronouns da, she, her, kena ella, dak traha aba taino boricua, ikrukuhua kena tekina, dak taino hebeliono towaria boriken, kena Cuba, dakebia alu umakao boriken. So hello everyone, my name is Ra. I'm a Taino Boricua artist and educator. My pronouns are she, her, ella, da. And I am from, as I said, Boriken. I live in Boriken, and my Taino ancestors are from Boriken and Cuba. Thank you for being here. This is Taíno Voices, formerly known as Areto Taíno Voices. So tonight we have our Wuru Taíno youth apprentices who will be leading the interviews. Luna will be interviewing Sam, and Rosita will be interviewing Alba. And so you will hear more from them, and they will do their introductions a little bit in a little while. Talata Hekekati. So happy new moon phases are something that we observe in our Taino culture, our Taino cosmovisión. And so whether that's the new moon or the full moon, even the equinox, solstice, that's something that we observe as part of our sort of being in tune with the cycles of the moon and of the planet and the sun and everything like that. So if you're new to Taíno Voices, this is your first time in Taíno Voices. Taíno Voices is a space where we celebrate the diversity of creativity that exists in our community. So we've had people who were singers, poets, activists, teachers, dancers, different people who make films, people who make pottery, different modalities. And so that's the point, is to celebrate that diversity of creativity that exists within our community. Taíno Voices has been running now for about 4 years now. And it started out as a virtual way of us staying in contact with our community and connected to our community at the beginning of the pandemic. And now 4 years into the 4 years later, here we are. We've had so many amazing guests. And one day I say this to myself, but now I don't know. I'm gonna edit all the recordings and put them up someplace. But we're up to like 40 or 50 Taíno Voices now. So I'm gonna have to hire a whole team to record, to edit all these recordings. But one day, that's my goal. So that said, this is actually the first time in the 4 years that we've been doing this that I'm not leading the interviews. So that's exciting because it means we're growing and we're evolving and we're moving forward and we're making space for others. And this time, making space for younger voices in our community. So for anyone who's new to my work, before I move on, I am queer, vegan Taino Boricua artist and educator. I'm the founder and director of Wuru Taino Tekiro'uo. And Wuru Taino Tekiro'uo is a grassroots initiative, and our purpose is to promote and celebrate Taino language and culture through workshops, through ceremonies, through gatherings, through courses, through presentations, and all the ways that we can. I'm an enrolled tribal member of Higuayawa, and I'm a member of the Hiwatahia Taino language team. I'm a Taino language instructor. If you're interested in Taino language classes, they happen, a new cycle happens every about 3 months. So the current classes will be finishing at the end of August, and then new classes will start, new beginner 1, which is the first level, beginner 2, and it goes up from there. If you are interested in Taino language, there are more and more resources now than there were before. We have several dictionaries that you can use, and that, in my classes, I try to take a multi-variant, multi-dialect approach, but I do focus on Hiwatahia Taino because, as I mentioned, I'm part of the Hiwatahia Taino language team. Yeah, so we have these resources. If you are interested in checking out and in purchasing the Hiwatahia Taino dictionary, the information is here on this screen. You can email caciquebaracuteiesteves@hiwayawa2016@gmail. Okay. But back to what I was saying, I'm a Taino language instructor. I make music in the Taino language, and that can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. I teach a class called Intro to Taino History, Language, and Culture. I lead this Taíno Voices monthly showcase. I also organize a panel about once or twice throughout the year called Kiwari Taino Wikino or Queer Taino Voices. And I also lead the Anaba Taino Poetry Workshop for any Taino poets that might be interested. And tonight we have Rosa and Luna, who will be leading interviews with Sam and Alba. And so I think that's all I have. And I'm actually going to pass it now to Luna, who will be interviewing Sam. And so Luna, it's all yours.
Hello everyone, my name is Luna. I will be interviewing Sam, my guest artist. I am Boricua Taino. I'm an artist myself too, and yeah, I'm gonna be reading Sam's bio now to introduce them. Okay. Sam is a queer Boricua Taino Portuguese self-taught artist who uses a variety of different mediums to create. From painting with mixed media and drawing both traditional and digital, to jewelry making with beading, wood, and other natural materials. Sam uses their art as a form of cultural reconnection and expression of human experiences. They were born and raised on the East Coast, but moved to Seattle in 2021. They now sell art prints and jewelry online and at markets around the city. They continue practicing, learning, and connecting with new techniques and materials. Hello, Sam.
Hello, thank you. Just to reintroduce myself, Mayadi, my name is Sam. My pronouns are they, them. I've been making art since forever, so I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk about it. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're just gonna jump right into the questions. So the first question I wanted to ask is, how do you use art as an expression for yourself and for your identity?
Yeah, so I'm a very visual person. I've always been a very visual person. Like thoughts that I have, scenarios that I come up with, pretty much everything is just like images in my mind. And I've also recently kind of like realized or I've started to learn that I also have an easier time like processing things out loud. And so those coming together to make art has been a habit that I've really created and been able to like fall back on to express myself. And so usually that's through drawing, just because that's usually like the most accessible form of art in any given situation of wherever I am, if I can find something. Um, yeah, and something about like the process of being able to make something that is so internal, external in a very like controlled environment. Um, yeah, something that feels very supportive and has felt supportive. And so that's why, yeah, that's how I usually like express myself. And that's how I do that.
Nice. Yeah, I totally relate to that. I'm also a very visual person, so like as an artist, it's really cool to see like my ideas come to life, and I feel like art is a really great way to like have that happen. And my
Mm-hmm.
next question, what called you to start selling? In your bio, you said you sell prints online and at market. So like what called you to start doing?
Yeah, I think the selling for me is really about like connection and getting to meet people. I think like being able to share pieces of my work and then also just like reflections and little projections of myself too with other people is what feels really fulfilling. Um, I think like the selling part itself feels good that I'm able to kind of like make something based off of things that I've created, but really getting to meet people and like them see my work and be inspired or getting to meet other artists. That's the part that feels the yeah, I think that's the part that really like feeds me and feels really good. Um, when I started selling, it was actually in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, I had seen like this GoFundMe going around for the Hopi Nation because 75% of their reservation didn't have running water and they weren't receiving any like outside support. Um, they weren't receiving any support outside of the reservation. And so when I had seen the GoFundMe, I had just started to kind of like mess around with like trying to make jewelry. It was sort of my like pandemic project. Um, and so I decided to really start like selling my stuff online to raise money for this. Um, and then I continued to do it over that summer, and I started sending the money towards bail funds for protesters that were arrested during the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests. Um, and so it was really something that I like did for that summer, or I guess like that year. And then when I moved to Seattle and saw like all of the different markets and like vending opportunities that there were, it it resurfaced again that like, oh, this is something that I'm interested in, and like building that connection. Yeah, so I've just stuck with it.
That's really awesome. I know as an artist for myself that also sells prints and stuff like that, it's really hard to kind of balance the art you make for yourself and the art you make for prints and for work. And that sometimes that line gets crossed and it gets blurred. So I was just wondering how do you balance that, like the art and your personal work? Because sometimes the art sometimes starts feeling like more of a chore than really an expression. So like how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's taken me a really long time to figure out, actually. I think I definitely struggled with that, like my first year of starting to do markets, because I really had like started to kind of let the production aspect take over the artistic aspect, and it started to become like quantity over quality for me. Um, Especially like with the beadwork and just how long that takes. I was looking more at like, oh, I only have this many pieces. I need to make more, rather than like looking at what I did have and seeing the value in just those couple pieces. Um, and so I think what I realize is that I really just need to give myself time, because when I do let, like when I start to worry more about my quantity, it starts to actually show up in my work. And that's when it really gets affected. Because I think so much of me wanting to share my art and, like sell my pieces and show it to other people is about the connection. And so it's less of like this really black and white line of like, oh, work art versus just art for me. Because if I'm making something and I'm enjoying it, it ends up becoming like, oh, I want to sell this because I want to share this with people. I want others people to see this too. And so it's when I start to worry more about the production, that's when that line gets crossed. Because for me, it's more about the process. And so it's when I start to, like prioritize the end result over the process. Yeah, so I think like just now knowing that, um, giving myself more time to work on things. Not someone that can like spontaneously um, sign up for markets. Like I'm not someone that like I have a large inventory at all times, because of how much I really need to plan ahead. So it's like I'm not able to really do as much in terms of like in-person selling. It's something that I have to really plan for ahead of time, but that's what works for me.
Yeah, totally. That's really cool hearing you say that because right now I'm going through kind of the same struggle of like quantity over quality and like the
Hmm.
production of it. I'm trying to like slow down and really enjoy the process. But yeah.
Hmm.
Um, how do you, oh no, so sorry. What is your art inspiration? And this one, Ra, if you could bring up the Canvas slides.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so if you could just talk about your art inspiration or with the specific pieces on the screen, like what really inspired you to create them.
Yeah. Um, A lot of my inspiration really just comes from like, I don't know, people experiences. I think like human connection and relationships and things that people and like I can relate to, anything that really invokes emotion or like a reaction of any kind. And so, I think when it comes to like jewelry, specifically like the wooden pieces that I make, I'm using raw wood. And so I'm trying to find like the colors and the knots in the wood and not manipulate them as in change them, but just kind of like bring that out. When it comes to beading, like I'm really expressing kind of this like abstract feeling or this like abstract story and just making it into this even more abstract piece just with like patterns and colors. So it's really like something for myself in terms of the more like wearable art that I make. I think with the paintings and drawings, um, yeah, just trying to like explore what it means to really be human and like everything that comes with that. Um, yeah, I think like so these specific pieces that are on the screen right now, some of these are prints and some of these, so the one on the bottom, the colored one is the painting, and then the other two are prints that I made. The one on the left is a lino cut, and then the one on above, that's like the same image of the painting, that is a dry point print, a dry point etching. Um, and so this is also like an example of me like playing with a bunch of different mediums. I had a lot of fun with the prints, and yeah, the one on the left was for an assignment that I actually did for my printmaking class, and we had to do a political print, and so this was inspired by the genocide that's going on, or not inspired, but this was supposed to be like making a statement about the genocide that's going on in Palestine right now. Um, and so a little bit more of like a serious piece, and then just like something extra that I had time to make that I just wanted to show like a tender moment. Yeah, so it's like inspiration wise, it's always a little bit different piece by piece, but like I'm always trying to say something.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And if you could just switch it to the next ones too, there's a couple more, I think.
Yeah, so the one in the middle is also a print. That's a jelly print. That one was fun because of the technical aspect. I'm really into like all of the intricate little steps that come with certain techniques of making art. And so this was like each different color and value is a different um, pull. And so I had to like fill this jelly plate with ink in very going from light to dark, um, lay down the paper so it just picks up the lightest color, and then every time I add more ink, I need to line it up. And so none of this is like drawn on top of each other really. It's all just like completely with like eyeballing it. And so I'm very proud of that one. And like that process is really fun. Uh, yeah, the one on the right is a self-portrait. It's actually 7 feet tall and 5 feet wide. Um, and this was like a mixed media assignment. And so it's with charcoal ink, Conte, and different ink washes. One is like a blue wash with water, and then the brown is actually from like coffee and tea. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, these were both gifts actually. It's funny when talking about like uh, my kind of relationship and process with like art for myself versus art for work. I feel like the most art that I make that I'm actually the most proud of is when I'm making it for other people. And so the pomegranates was a painting I made for my sister, and then the person with the birds is a painting I made for my mom. Um, yeah, the pomegranate is acrylic on cardboard actually, and then the one on the bottom with the birds is alcohol markers on a canvas cloth. And so I'm not sure if you can see it on this image, 'cause it's kind of small, but like if you zoom in a bit, or just like, I don't know, if you look at it, you might be able to still like see the texture and everything from the canvas cloth.
Those are beautiful. Thank you. Ra, you can stop screen sharing now. So now I wanted to get into more beading in that process. You said you taught yourself, and so I just wanted to ask, like, how did you get interested in that, and how was the process of teaching yourself? What was that like?
Yeah. Um, I've always admired beadwork. Yeah, I've always been very like impressed by it and very in awe of it. For a long time, I mean, I'm still following them, but for a long time, I would just like follow beaters and seriously just watch videos of them like beating. Like, so how some people watch like ASMR to relax, I would just like watch live streams of people beating. Um, and you know, going back to what I was talking about with like the different processes of different, you know, like techniques of art making and everything, I've always been drawn to very like intricate pieces of art that require a lot of patience. For a while, I was doing a lot of like stippling, which is making drawings just by doing like dots of different intensities to create value, and then also like teaching myself how to do macrame tapestries and stuff. Um, and so I was really drawn to how much like time and patience goes into beading, really. Um, and yeah, for a long time, it was something that I just kind of admired. And I had thought about trying myself, but I definitely approached it with like more, I was definitely more hesitant to start than I have been with like different types of jewelry making specifically. I think just because there was a part of me that was wanting someone to teach me. I was wanting it to be like passed down pretty much. But I didn't have anybody, you know, like in my community or in my life that could do that at the time. Um, and so, yeah, I was sort of, it was this interesting process of like, I use it now in my journey of like reconnection. And so I do think it's kind of funny that like it took me a minute to even get there too, because it took me a second to like accept that it is okay that I teach myself and I make this something that I can connect with in my own way. Hmm.
That's beautiful that you found your own connection to it, even if it wasn't passed down. We are a little low on time, but I really wanted to make sure we show the jewelry you make. So if Ra, you could pull up the other canvas slide, and if you could just talk about the materials you use, yeah, and how that's
Hmm.
connected to again.
Yeah, so material is super important to me in that process too. When I started, it was like it was a very clear thing that I did not want to, you know, take any color schemes or any patterns from any other beaded art that I had seen, just because most of the time, like those are culturally specific. Um, and so finding like my own materials to work with was something that felt really important. um, and also just the fact that I always try and, you know, use materials that would have been found and had been used in Borican and the Caribbean. And so like shells, stones, wood. I've used fish bones before, and that's always like really fun to work with. Um, yeah, and so these are some examples. And then the next slide too. Though the ribbons on, so the one on the left, that base is with ribbons. And even though that is not like a natural material, it was still, even when I use like artificial materials, it's still something that I'm being intentional about when I do decide to make that choice. Specifically, I had found these ribbons and decided to use them because the like color scheme and the gold reminded me a lot of Portuguese tiles. And so even though that's not related to like any Taíno art, it still felt like something I could connect with.
That's awesome. Thank you. And how has your identity influenced your art?
Um, it really like I feel like it's really all of it. I feel like it's all intertwined together. I think because I use you know, art as an expression of myself, and then also my inspiration being so much of like human experiences. It's kind of just this circle that is never ending. Um, yeah, I just try and, I don't know, I think I try and depict things that feel real. And I think in the end, I'm trying to like wrap it up a little bit. I think that ends up kind of also helping me realize a lot of things about myself too. Um, you know, trying to depict things that like I can identify with, and I feel that sorry. I'm very aware of the time, so I'm like trying to cut it and then I lost my train of thought. Um, yeah, it really is all tied together, you know, trying to show just emotion and show something real and always be authentic in what I am trying to depict in its own way is like representing myself and my identity, and then, you know, still following that same circle, I end up kind of using that as a way to explore new things about myself. Yeah, and so it's not just like my identity is not just influenced by my art, but it also kind of helps me explore more about my identity as well.
Totally. That's beautiful.
Hmm.
One more question. I wanted to ask, what is your plan and where do you want to go? Like, what message do you want to say, or what story do you want to tell? And also, where can we find you? I have the Instagram and the email right on the screen, so everyone take a screenshot of that. And yeah, so just where are you
Yeah,
wanting to start in like the career kind of aspect?
yeah. I definitely just want to make more. I think a dream that I've recently been kind of coming to terms with is that I would love to have some sort of like, I don't know, gallery showing or some sort of curated showing of my work, because there are, you know, I have like sketches and drafts and like saved references for these like series of like this like different collections that I want to really make. And I have started to realize that, you know, just selling them or just posting them online isn't really doing them justice in the way that I want them to be shown, or I want people to really experience them. Um, and so really just creating more, yeah, maybe one day making that happen. um, yes, this is my Instagram and my email if you have any questions. I have been meaning to make an Etsy. I seriously have like everything set up for the Etsy. I just haven't actually done it. And so when that happens, it will be posted on the Instagram and you can find that there. Um,
I feel like Etsy's
yeah,
in.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
What was that?
thank you for joining us today, and thank you for, I know it's late where you are, so yeah, just want to say thank you. And if you could put your Instagram and your email also in the chat too, so people can get it there,
Yes,
that'd be awesome.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And I would love to pass it on to my fellow youth apprentice, Rosita.
Miyari, hello, buenas, everyone. Da irile Rosa, my name is Rosa. Da Taíno Ebellono do Waria Borinquen. My Taíno ancestors are from Borinquen. Da Traja Taíno Boricua, I am Taíno Boricua. And da Kevia Alu Lenape Hokin. I live in Lenape Hokin, also known as New York City. Today, I have the honor to share the space with Yaseli, Ra, Luna, Alba, and Sam. And I just want to say before like starting off this conversation, like how beautiful that dynamic was between Luna and Sam, and just to really understand how art can impact the youth. And that's again where I come in, and I thank Yaseli and Ra for really creating this space. I've known them for a while now, and the work that they're doing for this revitalization and reclamation is really important. Um, and so it's an honor to be here. And I just want to also say that Alba and me had a really interesting engagement and how we met. As you guys may know, I introduced myself briefly with my introduction. in Hiwatahia, but I'm also a multi-dimensional artist. And one of my little gigs as a PA, producer assistant at the Bronx Net, I was lucky enough universally to meet Alba. And while I was talking to Alba, because the executive director was asking me to translate for Alba, to translate for them, I'm fascinated with her work and just how much energy she has and what she's bringing in. And so we connect, and little did I know that she was actually participating in the Taíno conference last year and met Ra and Yaseli. And if you guys know that, that was also organized by Priscilla Colón and a whole bunch of collective and different people. So yeah, it was very beautiful and universally. So I thought of her and I said, this was perfect. And so I'm gonna briefly read her bio. And so yeah. Alba E Garcia Rivas is an international award-winning Boricua filmmaker with Taíno indigenous roots. Garcia Rivas brings a new uplifting narrative by creating worlds inspired by her ancestors' stories. In 2018, the Puerto Rican filmmaker completed Toca Taíno, I Am Taíno, with executive producer and daughter of Jim Henson, Heather B. Henson of Green Feather Foundation. Garcia used puppets she designed and created the film about the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. It qualified and ran for an Oscar in 2019 and was shown at the Smithsonian Museum and the Museum of Moving Image, the Newark Museum, and HBO Max. Alba has a YouTube series titled Alba's Heart to Heart Conversation with Artists, in which she explores and gives strategies to all artists from all walks of life. And is there anything else you would like to add, Alba, or can we just jump right into the questions?
Tau, Taikaraya, Dacto Taíno, Boricua. Bueno, no, cubriste todo. You cover everything. So yes, when I grew up in Puerto Rico and I came to the United States because there was no animation programs in colleges in Puerto Rico at that time. So I moved to New York and took my bachelor's degree at School of Visual Arts. That's why I came to the United States and stayed, because obviously there's a lot more opportunities here than in Puerto Rico. Now Puerto Rico is opening animation studios of their own. So that is an amazing thing that I see, that I probably might want to go back and do my own. But for now, here.
Okay, and so how do you incorporate your Taíno roots into your art?
So basically, right, everything starts with how I found myself as my identity as Taíno person. And it was because first, when you are growing up in Puerto Rico in the 1980s, you are looking at MTV, I'm a Gen X. Whatever you see is the English language. You go to the movies, everything is in English. You have to look at the translate parts. Basically, my teenager, I wanted to be American. I wanted to be, I wanted to learn the English language and everything, and the culture. I didn't know. I grew up in a place in Puerto Rico that everybody was indigenous around me, in the mountains of Corozal, but my brain as a teenager was in another place. But fast forwarding until I met Heather Henson. Heather Henson, because her father and her mother were people who were very culturally interested, curious. They gave a lot for culture and to stop racism and to stop anything that is not correct. Like, they started that movement with puppets. So I met Heather through friends, and at one point, she asked me, there's nothing about the Taíno community. You're Puerto Rican. Yes, yeah, you're Taíno. Am I? That's the first thought I thought, because I didn't know who I was. Yeah, I knew, of course, because I grew up in Puerto Rico, but I didn't know I was Taíno. Then Hurricane Maria happened, and I saw the abandonment of my own people with the government. So by that time, I decided, I called her up and said, listen, I'm gonna make the screenplay, I'm gonna make the movie. Okay, now just give me a chance to do the screenplay and send it to you. So I wrote it and I started calling my parents and I asked them questions about their childhood. And little did I know that my father, my mother, my grandma had a duho inside her house. That my mother, when she was a little girl, she was always sitting there, and she was like, "Oh, this little seat with little faces, these funny faces." That my mother said to me. And my grandmother, I remember from first experience. My grandmother, when I used to visit, she told me, "Go to the river. You're gonna find a big rock with a lot of little faces." That's where I was washing my clothes when I was a young woman. So I went. Then I started, memories started coming in. It's like, oh my God, I grew up in a Taíno community in Corozal and also in Lares, because both my families are from both part of the island. So Casabe in Corozal and Casabi in Lares is the same word, different connotation. My grandmothers were Taíno. And there is a fascinating story. After I did the film, I found out that my grandmother, Patria, who gave her name, was Lolita Lebron, who is her godmother. And the interesting part is Dacto Taíno was not going to be a revolutionary film, and it ended up being that. And I didn't know my roots until, the Lolita Lebron part, I didn't know it until at the end, when I started going to Puerto Rico more often and starting asking the questions to my family members. So yes, that's how all it started. That's how everything started with that story. And the question is how it impacted my art. That was the question, the first one.
No, it's how you incorporate your Taíno roots into your art, and you basically covered that. Yeah, no, sí, totalmente. Like you said, everything. Yeah. And I think that it's beautiful to understand how every artist, we share this we share this experience of reaching that level of consciousness, reaching that level of reclamation. And that's so beautiful that through your art, through this beautiful piece of film, that you were able to find that.
But it's also I wanted to add that when I was doing Daktoka, it was a cry for help for my people. And one of the things is that I learned, I started talking to people in the community because I wanted to make it more authentic. I asked the voices. The voices are Amneris Morales, which is one of the greatest actresses in Puerto Rico. And then when something about the impact of that movie was that I went to Puerto Rico to one of the schools. It's called the Nahuaque schools. And the kids, the impact was there. When I asked them, how do you feel about the Hurricane Maria? What do you remember? And everyone went silent. And then one kid raises his hand and he says, my grandpa died. Then another one, my uncle died. And they were grieving, but my art impacted the community so that they could start talking about that sadness. And they were kids. They were kids and they needed a hug at that moment. So this is the impact of my work, that I want to get to the kids. I want to teach them their language with my films and their history.
Yes, so beautiful. And for those who are unaware, we're going to be showing some clips towards the end of exactly what Alba is talking about, so no worries. But also, contradicting that a little bit, what are some challenges that you face in promoting and preserving that culture? Because of course, telling this, climate crisis story in a way is something that is challenging overall in the beginning, in general, but also promoting that, telling that story, pushing it, and, to those people who would fund it would get that to happen. How was that a challenge? How was that?
So for Dr. Taíno, I was invited by Heather. So she gave me a grant basically to do the film. After Dr. Taíno, basically I fend for myself. I do crowdfundings because I cannot find the venue or I cannot find investors to create my films. I have right now a feature film that I want to do. Is a fantasy feature film based on our Taíno mythology, but in the present time. And Jeff Gomez, who wrote Avatar, he's Boricua too, but he wrote Avatar and Pirates of the Caribbean. He's my mentor, and he said, "But you need to make this film." And yes, it's there. I have to pitch it. I have everything to pitch it, but I cannot find investors. Probably that's the main thing. I have a series of how to teach Taíno that I want to do like a Jim Henson style that I am looking for sponsors to. I just released with BronzeNet Eco Leaders, which is with puppets, but it teaches about the eco, the environment. So that it was covered, but my new series that I want to teach Taíno, that is not covered. It's not by BronzeNet. That's something I want to do to further the language in TV. So I have the series that I want to get investors that I don't have investors yet. Future crowdfundings that I'm gonna do, and the feature film that I'm planning to do, which is a kind of like Avatar the style with humans and 3D characters, but with the Taíno indigenous characters, and the main character speaks only Taíno. So it's very interesting if I can get that into the theater, so the whole world can actually experience our culture. So basically, my challenge is investors. They don't know. People may not understand my culture. They might be that they want to help, but they don't know how to. But I don't know how to get to the investors. And what I do is crowdfunding so far.
Okay, sorry about that. My phone got a little hot. So what messages do you really primarily want to convey in your work? And also, how does it expand across other cultures? Because the Taíno region, the tribe, is so big, especially now. So how does that just also expand across other cultures?
Well, what I am trying to, my purpose, I think, that after I did Dr. Taíno, I found my purpose. And my purpose as an artist is to further my culture in creative ways. Like I said, series, the feature film, and even a book that I'm working on. But I also started, before the pandemic, I started making a full length horror film about, it was named Kija, but we couldn't do it because the pandemic happened. So the trailer is here, and the whole part of the story was how it expands from my Taíno roots to other tribes. Is that this film, it was the mother and child crossing Mexico border. They come all the way from Ecuador, all the way through the Mexico border to try to find freedom in the United States. And they get separated at the border, and they put them in the concentration camps that we still have today. And it's a fantasy film, a horror. So at the end, of course, the child suffered. She had asthma, and she dies in this unfortunate event. But it is a film about another cry, the cry for justice for all these brothers and sisters from our South America. It's interesting that I chose that one of the main characters only speaks Quechua, so I need to contact the Quechua people so they can translate the poem in Quechua. And it was a beautiful. It's still, I have the storyboards and everything. I would love to shoot it. The girl, the main character, is already outgrowing. She's supposed to be a little girl, and now she's kind of like a teenager, so I probably need to recast. but the trailer is there. You can have a taste of how I wanted it to look like. So that's how it expands. I not only want to cover the Taíno language, for example, for the series that I wanted to do, like a Jim Henson kind of Muppet kind of the series. The first season focuses on Taíno culture. The second in Quechua. The third in Nahuatl, and we can go to Nigerian or other types of languages that people don't know, but they might be interested in learning the culture and some of their mythology and cosmology and stuff like that.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I mean, now that we kind of talked about it and we know a little bit who Alba is, I think it's nice we could show a piece of a film. And specifically, we can show Daktoka Taíno, if that's okay, Alba.
Abuela Yaya, ¿tú crees que sobreviviremos?
Nena, ven aquí. Los boricuas no nos quitamos, nos levantamos.
Pero tengo miedo.
Escúchame bien, Marabeli. Nuestros ancestros cuidaban y protegían nuestra tierra abundante.
Oh, ya veo.
¿Qué te pasa, Marabeli?
Abuela, tú dices que los taínos existen. Entonces, ¿dónde están?
Ay, bendito. Mira, hay una aquí.
¿Cómo se dice? Yo soy taíno.
Daktoka Taíno.
Wow, Alba, that's so beautiful. I mean, this is actually my first time seeing something animated representing the Taíno community, and that's so beautiful, you know? And I don't know if I'm speaking for a lot of people, but I think I am. So you're definitely being a change maker in the tribe. That's beautiful. And just to sort of wrap up, what are you currently, I mean, you kind of expressed also what you're currently working on, but how does it also, you know, all of these experiences connecting with different ethnic backgrounds and looking at yourself and seeing everyone and looking at a bit of a reflection of who we are in humanity, how does your current work and how does it relate to ancestral wisdom, and how can we just support it? How can we support you?
Yeah, I already started with my crew developing a crowdfund for Wow Museum. That's the name of our TV series for the Taíno, showing the Taíno language. And we wanted to call it Wow because it's a world of wonder. And we want to teach the Taínos in the diaspora, so basically worldwide. And we chose English as a platform because if we speak Spanish, you know, we're not going to reach out more indigenous Taíno around the globe or any other culture. So we decided Wow, or that's the show, or World of Wonder. And then we're going to show, we're going to have, the thing is we have a jungle man, which is a person who just shows the animals from Puerto Rico too. We go into the caves. Actually, I did already I shot some of the scenes in the caves of Puerto Rico, and we got oh my God, it's a surprise, but we even have la cotorra puertorriqueña.
Wow.
So we have, ay Dios mío,
that's exciting.
The manatee, we have a manatee, we covered that too. But
Wow.
Also we have a scientist, and one of the characters is a scientist, Mr. Rich, and he's gonna teach us about, for example, ay Dios mío, la semilla, ay Dios mío, que es roja, achiote, bija. So he's gonna teach us how to use bija and how to use it for the skin and other uses for that. So he uses science experiments to teach the ancestral ways, but how we can use it now. right?
Yeah.
So, and then we have the main character is the curator of the museum, and the three kids who are curious. And then we have fantasy characters from the indigenous mythological creatures. Daminan Caracol with the three brothers are going to be part of that. So it's gonna be, we're gonna have Atave at one point, you know, the Atave transforms into a little girl. So I have all the ideas, everything is set up, it's just crowdfunding is coming.
Wow, yeah, and I mean, Rob, if we could show the her website as well, so people know how to find you, that'll be great. I mean, this is wonderful, and that sounds exciting. I mean, you're using all types of different elements to bring visions alive, and you're collaborating, which is something that I think with this new earth, this new awakening of consciousness is happening. Like we're collaborating, the diaspora is collaborating with the archipelago, and we're finding ways to build together, to resist together, and do it in community. And that's beautiful, you know, and I'm really excited. You have to definitely like let us know when this is out.
Also, I would like to share, if you haven't seen my puppet show, I have a new puppet show that I did with BronzeNet. It's only six episodes, but you can see me with I'm the one of the characters, but I have the puppet. So the same format, but for the Wow Museum with my own puppets. Totally different because they're gonna have more Taíno looking characters and stuff. But it's called the Eco Leaders. It's in BronzeNet.
Nice.
It's a TV series that it just came out.
Yes. Bueno, Gorillo, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Alba, thank you. It was an honor. I am so glad that you were able to share space with us. And I'm looking forward to hearing more and maybe even collaborating with Wuru Taíno and you.
Yay.
Ariko Mabu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Ariko Mabu, to Rosa, to Luna, to Sam, to Alba, and to all of you for showing up tonight to listen to these beautiful conversations. Thank you so much. And our next Taíno Voices session will be next month, but it's the first Sunday of the month. So you can stay tuned by following us on Instagram, so at Wuru Taíno or at Luis Leon, and we will repost the flyer a week or so before Taíno Voices. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful night.